This video essay will analyze the parole sequences of Brooks and Red, and how their fates eventually veer in opposite directions from each other, because of their own individual experiences. I would also like to add a trigger warning, as this video contains clips of Brooks's suicide. The Shawshank Redemption is a 1994 film written and directed by Frank Darabont. The film is based on the book Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption by Stephen King. It is famous for its powerful story of hope and perseverance, exploring themes of friendship and resilience. It is also considered one of the greatest films of all time. The story follows the journey of a falsely accused banker, Andy Dufresne, who is sentenced for the murder of his wife and her lover. He is sent to Shawshank Prison, where he meets a variety of individuals including Brooks and Red, whom this video will focus on. Over the course of the film, both Brooks and Red are granted parole and released from Shawshank. In the beginning, both men struggle with adjusting to the outside world after being institutionalized for so long. But Brooks and Red's fate eventually take them in opposite directions. This turn in fate shows that hope serves as the fuel for motivation for those who face the unknown. The theme of hope is strongly portrayed throughout the film, and shows the effects of how humans strive towards it. Both Brooks and Red's parole sequences share similarities at first, but the subtle differences between the two sequences portrayed in camera angles, movement, and visuals emphasize just how different their experience in society is, and how it foreshadows their fates. Brooks Hatterlin, an elderly man, is a long-term inmate of 50 years and one of Andy's closest friends. When news of his release spreads, Brooks is adamant of leaving and tries to kill his friend Haywood, in hopes he would remain in prison. Because after being in Shawshank for 50 years, he had gotten so used to the routines and order he was become, as Red would say,
just institutionalized.
His willingness and resort to murder shows how desperately he wants to stay.
The man's been in here 50 years, Haywood. 50 years. This is all he knows. In here, he's an important man. He's an educated man. Outside, he's nothing.
Brooks is a highly respected librarian in Shawshank Prison, so why would he ever want to leave? His hope in staying in Shawshank is stripped away from him. When Brooks is shown stepping outside the prison gates, he is well dressed in a suit and tie and shakes the hand of one of the guards to say farewell, and they wish him luck. As Brooks walks closer towards the camera, it slowly zooms in, focusing on the subject. This gives off an isolating feel to the shot. Shawshank is seen in the background of Brooks, as he has solely depended on the prison for the last 50 years of his life, and he is now completely taken from it. Throughout Brooks' journey, his moves are tense and awkward as he tries to navigate in the new world. His bus ride is isolated and tense as he grips tightly onto the handlebars, only staring ahead, not looking around. Brooks must absorb all this change as he heads off into the unknown. The camera zooms into a close shot of his face as he tries to take in everything. This static long shot of Brooks walking down the streets as he looks astonishes at how quickly the world has evolved in 50 years. Some major inventions during his time in prison include the jet engine, the radar, and the TV. All these inventions would have been mind-blowing for someone like Brooks. In this static shot, Brooks staggers down the street looking around and taking in the scenery of a bustling city. He struggles to navigate across the road as there are so many cars. He nearly gets run over by a driver and gets shouted at. As the tracking shot follows him, he quickly crosses the road carrying his very few belongings, both flustered and overwhelmed by the encounter. Brooks' reaction shot shows him seeing the sad, barren, and poorly lit halfway house. It has very minimal stuff, only the necessities. The room looks very monochromatic in shades of yellows, browns, and reds, giving it a cheap feel. The camera pans showing Brooks and multiple subjects in the grocery store. Brooks struggles with bagging groceries due to the arthritis, and the shop manager is very stern and speaks in a very condescending tone towards him.
Make sure you double bag, like the lady says, understand?
Yes, sir.
Brooks is not treated very nicely in the outside world, and all his negative encounters slowly chip away his will and hope to live. Brooks is shown spending time feeding the pigeons, hoping to see Jake again, the black crow he raised for years.
Just show up and say hello, but he never does. I hope wherever he is, he's doing okay and making new friends.
He also mentions that when he sleeps, he dreams of falling. Sometimes falling dreams can signify loss of control, as this routine in the outside world is so new to him. By looking at his face, it expresses fear. He finds it really hard to adjust and struggles to fall asleep. Brooks considers shooting the store manager or stealing something so he can return to Shawshank, but does not end up doing it. Instead, he decides to end himself because he has nothing to live for and therefore nothing to lose. The dark room is already ominous with the low lighting, but as Brooks packs, the audience can assume that he is leaving. This angle purposely shows this background, because he will be hung right there. But as he steps onto the desk, his intent becomes a lot clearer. All the close-up shots add to the suspense. As the close-up shots of what Brooks is doing slowly add up, the audience can only watch in anticipation to what's about to happen to him. As he hangs from the ceiling, the mirror in the background captures more of his body, but it is in shallow focus as the legs are the main subject in this shot. The establishing shot slowly pulls out, revealing what Brooks wrote on the banister before he died, and his hanging lifeless body. In the end, Brooks had no hope, no friends, and no one to rely on. The isolating life finally got to him. He had no reason to keep living anymore, and was not motivated to continue his current life with how poorly he was being treated. This example shows what happens when you live without hope. Red is a lot different from Brooks. Every 10 years, it seems that Red meets with the parole board to assess him. He has been rejected so many times, but after 40 years he is finally approved for release. His speech about being rehabilitated and self-reflecting was very inspiring, and that was because of Andy. Andy had told Red his dreams, and Red had made a promise to Andy. When stepping outside of the prison gate, the tracking shot follows Red from behind. It continues to follow him outside the gate and into freedom. Like Brooks, Red wears a simple suit and carries a little suitcase. Instead of the background being of Shawshank Prison, it is the vast countryside. Red looks around and smiles. Unlike Brooks, he takes in the freedom, gazing around, an amazed look on his face. On the bus ride, Red is also more relaxed, and he allows himself to look around and admire the view, and he clutches his suitcase instead of the railing for stability. When entering the halfway house, Red takes in the scene, but his eyes land on something on the ceiling. Brooks was here. This makes him recall what happened to Brooks in that very room. While working at the grocery store, Red is treated better compared to when Brooks was. When he asks to use the bathroom, his manager says he doesn't need to ask, which makes him realize he had been asking to take a bathroom break for 40 years.
40 years I've been asking permission to piss. I can't squeeze a drop without say-so.
This tracking medium shot shows Red walking down the street. Behind him is a pawn shop sign that sells gun. Red looks interestingly into the window.
There's a harsh truth to face. No way I'm gonna make it on the outside.
The camera tilts down, panning across the array of items. It seems as if Red will undeniably follow in Brooks' footsteps. Even Red thinks it's impossible to keep going. But as the camera continues to pan across the display, it pauses on a compass. This reminds Red of his promise to Andy, and gives him the motivation to continue living. Andy had planted a little seed of hope in Red before he left, and it was just enough to motivate him to keep living. In the vast world, Red found a purpose, and after following Andy's instructions, they both finally reunite in Mexico. This is why hope serves as the fuel for motivation for those who face the unknown. When compared to each other, Brooks had no hope, nothing to look forward to, and no goal. That is what caused him to lose the will to live. At first, Red was also like that, but he was also curious to what was outside the prison. Andy gave Red hope, and that is what motivated him to reunite with Andy. Hope serves as a goal in life, and in the Shawshank Redemption, Brooks and Red's parole sequences and the building up towards The releases both play a huge role to show the two outcomes. It is rough when your usual daily routines and everything you know are completely stripped away, being forced into an unknown world who have left you behind a couple of decades. This is what Brooks and Red had to live with once they left Shawshank. The parole system of prisons only provides the bare necessities like housing and sometimes a job. That can be helpful for the parolees, but the well-being of the person is not looked after enough. After spending a prolonged period in prison surrounded by tons of people, the person will become so accustomed to the life that sudden isolation becomes so lonely. The film is entertaining and has its humorous moments, but it also shows the reality what life being released from prison is like. This is why Hope really helped Red to stop thinking negatively and about wanting to commit suicide. Hope serves as the fuel for motivation for those who face the unknown. The Shawshank Redemption storytelling is amazing, and so is the cinematography. Throughout the sequences there was subtle foreshadowing of what the characters' fate had in store for them. When Brooks and Red are released from prison, the camera are on the opposite sides of the gates. On the bus they also sit on the opposite sides from each other. A lot of the camera angles and movements are very natural, giving the effect that someone is holding the camera at head height. The lighting is also done beautifully, capturing the natural, realistic element of the film. The character development played an influential role in the outcomes of the character, with Andy talking about his dream of living in Zihuatanejo with Red, and telling Red to find something buried under the black volcanic rock. The curiosity and hope in Red is what drove him to continue living. Thank you for watching this video.